90 minutes of carnage. The Little Bighorn Massacre. The flies caught the attention of General Alfred Terry's men right away. Thousands of them cover the slopes of Last Stand Hill, buzzing and black. A sweet, sickening smell that stuck to their clothes grew stronger as they ascended, the stink of rotting flesh. And then the terror came at the summit. 263 victims, stripped naked, scalped and disfigured, lay sprawled in the June heat. A stone war club crushed George Armstrong Custer's skull as he lay in the middle, his right leg severed at the knee. From his throat jutted a wooden stake, a Cheyenne death mark for liars. Nearby, the body of a young private was armed with 17 arrows. With a look of disdain on his face, Captain Frederick Benteen kicked a boot covered in blood. He scoffed, "Hero! Heroes pay attention to scouting. Heroes with 647 men don't charge 7,000 sous." He perished like an idiot who chased fame. With 268 people killed in 90 minutes, including Custer's brothers Tom and Boston, the statistics spoke for themselves. Later forensic investigations verified the rapidity of the slaughter. Custer's brigade was overrun after firing 35,000 rounds, or one shot every 10 seconds. Every man. Silent witnesses to desperation, 45 to 55 shell casings, are still discovered by archaeologists buried in the ground. The Lakota, however, had a different perspective. It was Whitewashing, where long hair fell to them. "We didn't despise Custer," a Cheyenne warrior subsequently recalled. "We felt sorry for him. Wolves die alone, but he battled like a cornered wolf." Terry wrote in his journal, "This was no battle." As he looked over the devastation, it was a reckoning. How did the most renowned general in America, who survived 11 horses being shot under him during the Civil War, lead his soldiers into a massacre that even his adversaries referred to as suicide? Custer's trumpeter, Private John Martin, who was born in Italy, rode into Benin's camp at 1:15 p.m., his horse roaring at the mouth. "They are encircled by thousands of Sioux, Cheyenne, and other tribes, sir." Custer's last command, written in Adjutant Cook's ragged hand, was pushed at Benteen by him. "Be haste, carry packs, and come quickly. Big village." After taking a quick look at the note, Benteen threw it away. "Bundles? The man wants mules while his troops bleed?" He turned to Lieutenant Godfrey. "McDougal should be instructed to drag the supplies. Now we ride." However, Martin objected to the packs. Benteen yelled, "Let Custer get what he sowed. Go." Gunfire reverberated from the Little Bighorn as Martin ran. Under Crazy Horse and Gall, 1,800 warriors were advancing. While confined on Calhoun Hill, Custer's men fired 22 rounds every minute, causing their Springfields to flare red hot. As a Cheyenne warrior subsequently said, "We witnessed their fear. They were too quick and too high, like kids flinging rocks." Major Marcus Reno, in the meantime, was crouching on the cliffs, his glasses fogging from whiskey breath. He cried, "We're whipped!" as fighters rushed past his line of defense. In 20 minutes, 47 of his 11 men were dead. "Gone are half my men. Benteen where? And where is God?" By 3 p.m., Reno left his stand, the body of Hodgson. He mounted a stray horse and muttered, "It's still out there." In the shallows of the Little Bighorn, he zigzagged through gunfire for 30 crucial minutes in order to recover his lieutenant's corpse, a bloated, arrow-riddled mess. A trooper swore and shot at shadows as the major hunted corpses as we were turning into them. Reno's clothing was covered in blood and mud when he returned empty-handed. "We must withdraw," he gasped. "Get started. Await Terry." Why did Reno's command fall apart as Custer's men fired their final shots? And what covert agreement did Terry and Benteen make that guaranteed their demise? Modern ballistic analysis demonstrates 97% of Custer's ammunition were fired defensively, showing his men were surrounded, not charging. Archaeologist Richard Fox's mapping of Reno's retreat route reveals 112 distinct rifle holes, each representing a soldier's last, desperate stand. There were just 53 males who were still alive at 9 p.m. In 2001, as part of audio forensics investigations, Crow tribal singers mimicked the 412 beats per minute that Sioux drums pulsed over the valley. It was not a haphazard beat. Ethnographers today argue that it reflected the Lakota Hunka ceremonial, which honors the bravery of warriors. However, it was torture for the soldiers. A adolescent trooper cried and clawed at Custer's ears as they danced on his bones. He was a 17-year-old orphan from New York named John Duval, who had joined under a false identity. He would live through the night, but in 1883, he would hang himself while muttering Sioux chants. Dr. Henry Porter operated by moonlight behind decaying horse carcasses. He noted in his journal, later seized by the War Department, that there was no anesthetic. While one man prayed to his deceased mother, another bit his tongue. In 2018, when evolutionary anthropologists examined Porter's notes, they discovered a trend. As a sobering reminder of the strength of earthly ties, soldiers who prayed to their families lived 43% longer than those who prayed to God. Major Marcus Reno filled his canteen with alcohol on the bluffs. "May hell be kinder than the Sioux," he muttered to Custer, toasting the darkness. Lieutenant Edward Godfrey, a guy whose military record stated that he was prone to oversleeping and lethargy, carried a coffee tin in one hand and a handgun in the other as they strolled through the camp. "Now form lines," he commanded, rousing the trembling soldiers. "I'll shoot deserters myself, so get back in line." Godfrey barked, "Gone. 10 hours out for Terry's column. Do you desire salvation? Run." In order to repel the pursuing Lakota, Godfrey's rear guard fired 312 rounds over 1.2 miles of open terrain over the course of the following 97 minutes. In contrast to Custer's insane vertical shots, contemporary trajectory research reveals that his soldiers were aiming low as a survival strategy. In 2005, 17 Springfield casings bearing the U.S. 1874 stamp were discovered by archaeologists close to Godfrey's marked shooting positions. Godfrey reported 3 fatalities and 11 injuries at daybreak. That night, he wrote to his wife, "I'm not a hero. I'm just too stubborn to die." The survivors of the 7th Cavalry characterized the siege as an act of valiant resistance. Oral histories of Cheyenne people from the 1930s, however, paint a different picture. According to Tu Moon, a warrior who battled at Weir Point, after their hill burnt, the soldiers swarmed like ants. "We allowed them to survive. They were damaged." This is where the paradox is. The final stand by Reno and Benteen wasn't really a stand at all. The majority of rifle pits faced away from Lakota forces, according to thermal imaging scans done in 2016, indicating that individuals may have shot blindly while withdrawing. Battle archaeologist Dr. Douglas Scott came to the conclusion that this was more of a protracted fall than a defensive. The Army's 1879 Court of Inquiry whitewashed Reno's inebriation and Benteen's delays, portraying their survival as unwavering bravery. However, contemporary scholarship dissects the myth. Benteen's pocket watch, found among his descendants in 1999, had a cracked face frozen at 2:17 p.m., the precise moment Custer's battalion fell. Did Benteen look at it during his delay? Historians disagree as to whether it represented guilt or calculating coldness. As for Godfrey, his valor earned him a Medal of Honor in 1894, 18 years later, when the Army needed living heroes to counteract Custer's notoriety. His citation tellingly left out his pre-battle reputation as a lounger. On June 26 at daybreak, the heroes had transformed into shadows that were creeping toward Terry's column. However, salvation was not what was waiting for them. It was a confrontation with reality. When survivors of a massacre are doomed by their existence, how does history view them? That daybreak, the Sioux broke up their camp and vanished like specters. Although they had won the battle, they could feel the real conflict coming. "You think we celebrated?" Sitting Bull subsequently said to a reporter. "We wept. You don't celebrate when you kill a furious wolf. It nearly reached your throat, as you recall." General Alfred Terry's column topped Last Stand Hill at first light on June 27th. They were struck first by the foul smell, a sickening concoction of rotting gunpowder and blood. Custer's renowned golden hair were matted with blood, and his nude corpse was spread out in the dirt. 20 yards distant, a Cheyenne trophy laid on his right leg, which had been cut at the knee, while 17 arrows stuck out of his torso. His brother Tom's body was so disfigured close by that it took a dental match to identify him. Army records showed that his gold-filled molar was there. "Your tardiness killed them," Terry said in a poisonous whisper as he turned to face Benteen. Benteen grinned as he used a bloody kerchief to wipe his glasses. Custer divided his troops, disregarded the scouts, and rushed like a complete idiot. "Do you believe I could have prevented that?" With 268 people killed in 90 minutes, the statistics made fun of them. The only survivor was the horse of Comanche Captain Miles Keogh, whose injuries were later idealized as courage in a War Department exhibit. Only 3 of the 12 companies that made up the 7th Cavalry, H, D, and K, were still prepared for battle. Like ghosts, survivors staggered toward Terry's camp. Italian revolutionary-turned-soldier Private Giovanni Di Rudio emerged from the woods, his clothes torn and his eyes empty. He said in a whisper to a chaplain, "I hid while they died. God was busy, so I prayed to Garibaldi after the Sioux passed me twice." Due to his legendary cowardice, Di Rudio was twice court-martialed and acquitted. He lived to reach 85 years old and died in 1922 while cursing Custer's name. His admission, which was kept hidden in Army records until 1971, reveals the brutal reality of the conflict. Survival was due to luck rather than bravery. Custer was praised as a valiant martyr in the Army's official report. "We lost the West as a result of Custer's carelessness, which was privately discussed and angered." Despite facing inquiry courts, Benteen and Reno were exonerated because their survival was seen as evidence of their abilities rather than cowardice. The myths are demolished by contemporary archaeology. Contrary to the heroic charge legend, LIDAR scans showed that Custer's soldiers fired almost 35,000 rounds in a dwindling defensive zone. 62% of military skulls had execution-style wounds, including point-blank Lakota temple shootings, according to forensic anthropologists. Henry guns in the 44-40 range. The Sioux, however, paid a more somber price. Within a year, the Little Bighorn winners were starving, their buffalo herds were killed, and their children were forced to live on reservations. As Sitting Bull subsequently remarked, "We won the battle but lost the world." Custer's final stand became America's founding myth of sacrifice. But what does it say about a country that exalts a massacre as bravery and survivors as traitors? In 1983, during a ceremony for reconciliation, Cheyenne elders buried a lock of Custer's hair. The ceremony's leader, Eugene Blackbear, shrugged, "We pity him still." Arrogance dies harder than men. The hill remains, the casings rust, and the flies continue to gather. Please like and subscribe to this channel to help our community grow.